Guanghui saw this and immediately stopped walking. Yeob threatened again, "I'm not joking, no, if you come forward again I will kill him. If he dies, all of you will." At this point he suddenly fell silent. Because Lee Sukgung was next to him and he wasn't paying attention. Rushed to hit his waist. Yeob was startled when he was suddenly attacked. Then he swung his knife and slashed at Sok Dong. Where did this mouse come from? I thought Sok Dong would heal a little, but Guanghui suddenly disappeared on the spot. When he appeared again, the long sword was close to Yeob's neck, pushing him back. Yeob was terrified and couldn't do anything. I can't describe it, just like that, Guanghui was pressed against the corner of the wall. Guanghui's face was covered in blood like a devil. Next, without any hesitation, he swung his sword and slashed Yeob's hand, his arm stabbed. That means countless wounds appeared. Guanghui held his hand tightly and continued to swing a sword. Did it hurt? Don't die like that, if you die so easily it would be very unfair. After saying that, he continued to swing his sword to torture the opponent. Wang Ju-il and Sok Dong were on the side seeing this. There's no way to believe it. Yeob has no way to resist, he can only scream in vain. Wang Ju-il puts his hand over Sok Dong's eyes, not wanting him to see this disgusting scene. Guanghui, are you smiling? After a while, Yeob's screams completely disappeared. He was tortured to death by Guanghui. Only then did Guanghui calm down a bit. The long sword in his hand was also attacked by him. Let go, his arm also began to tremble. Soon the door to the inn was opened again. So Wiggin slowly entered from outside. His face was extremely gloomy as he staring at Guanghui. Guanghui still stood there with a calm face, staring at Yeob's body. After a moment he turned his head to glance at So Wiggin. His eyes were still red and fierce like a devil, so Wiggin saw that look in his eyes and his eyebrows furrowed in tension. The scene changed to another side. The Zhang family's army was also rushing to the inn at this time. Zhang Ryan sat next to him. I'm so worried in the carriage, what should I do? Zhang Wen is beside her reassuringly, don't worry too much, we still have hope. Zhang Ryan raised her voice, this is my fault, if I didn't suggest that idea then. Calm down, Zhang Ryan. Zhang Ryan couldn't calm down, on the contrary, she was even more agitated. I made a plan so that no one would die and no one would get hurt. I shouldn't have been so overconfident, now everyone is worried. We'll die because of you. Zhang Wang shouted. Zhang Ryan, the guard Guanghui is there. He's with Elder Wang, I'm sure they won't be able to do anything to them. Zhang Ryan's face full of doubts, what are you talking about? What if he's there? Zhang Wang said harshly, we have to believe in him. Zhang Ryan bowed his head and sighed, please stop saying those meaningless words, no matter how good he is, how can he save everyone? Everyone? Zhang Wang held Zhang Ryan's shoulders tightly and loudly. He was the one who saved me. He saved me and tried to hide it. It was Moke who told me and I fell in love. The Moke bridge temporarily hid the truth. Zhang Ryan shook his head, brother lied. Zhang Wang continued to explain, I think if a normal fighter could defeat all three guardians at the same time. Did the elder invite you back? Does it take just a second for an ordinary fighter to defeat the bodyguard of the head of the 9 dragons to you department? Why is everything always solved easily when he's around? Why don't you realize it, you idiot? After hearing these words, Zhang Ryan was startled awake. There are many extraordinary things he can do, he is much better than we think. Zhang Wang continued, Guanghui is hiding his martial arts skills, he might even be better than Moke. Zhang Ryan lowered his head in thought, but what if he can't save them? Zhang Wang calmly replied, if even he fails then the end of the Zhang family has come. Zhang Ryan heard that and immediately frowned without saying anything. The scene changed to the present. Shijia Zhuang Ju were in the room when suddenly an elder rushed in. Our homeowner discovered it too late, we were surrounded. They had occupied most of the buildings and had killed almost all of our army. Now we only have 10 fighters left, they can't hold out for long. Shijia Zhuang Ju's face was filled with disbelief. How is this possible? How could the head of the Zhang family do such a thing? I couldn't believe that I would be hit so hard by that little cat. The other person saw him standing there absent-mindedly and again urged him, homeowner, you must leave immediately. Shijia Zhuang Ju shake if there's nothing left, what's the point of living? Don't people live in this world for glory and wealth? All of them should have been blown away without a trace. At this moment someone suddenly appeared and chopped off the head of the elder. That person coming is Moke. Shirjiazhuang Ju just looked and realized that the other person was Yu Moke. Sung Ryong did not answer but smiled at him. The scene changed to the outside of the two's battle. The Il Quan sword of the fighter on Shirjiazhuang's side had now begun to tremble. There was also fresh blood on the ground. One of the two had been injured by the opponent. And he panted for a moment. I once again carried the knife and attacked Il Quan. Il Quan raised his spear to block but was cut in half by the opponent's sword. After cutting off the opponent's weapon, then he continued to swing and slash at. Il Quan fell back to avoid escaping, then twisted the two long spears in his hand, causing its two sharp ends to point upward. Then, taking advantage of the opponent's vulnerability, he stabbed straight at him. And that fighter was suddenly killed by him. Il Quan later then he stood up, clasped his hands together and sighed. Suddenly he felt something and turned his head to glance outside. This feeling seemed to be changing. Scene to the inn. Guanghui and So Wigan very much quickly rushed out from inside. So Wigan resisted Guanghui's attack, his face showing an unbelievable look. How is this terrible power possible? After a while he was able to separate and retreated back to lengthen the distance with Guanghui. He was breathing heavily like a dead dog staring at the other person. Is this guy a monster? Thinking for a moment, he decisively put down the knife. Please forgive me, my name is So Wigan. Guanghui's face was still extremely gloomy, standing there without speaking. So Wigan in silently thinking, I have to tell him everything, that's the only way to survive. I came here for the Moke, besides that I won't do anything else. If the mission is to kill you then I would never dare to accept. Guanghui then spoke up and asked, are Shirjiazhuang's troops coming here? What is their plan? So Wigan quickly explained, their plan is to eliminate the Moke. If you appear, they will kill you. The other two don't know about your existence. I know you can kill me and repelled Shirjiazhuang's entire army, but that's not the only problem. Everyone here can be killed by Shirjiazhuang's men during the melee. However, if you spare me, I will stop them and chase them back. Even if I can't convince them, I can at least buy time, because I know their direction. So you can let me go or not? Guanghui's arm holding the sword was a little down at this point. So Wigan saw this and knew there was a chance, so he continued asking, is that okay? Guanghui thought for a moment then raised his head to look at him. His face was much calmer now. So Wigan saw his appearance and knew he was alive. He didn't, no more talking, quickly turned around and ran away. After running a few steps, he suddenly stopped. Sorry, can I ask your name? From now on, I will never accept any work related to the Zhang family again. I will never even set foot in this place again. But I will definitely be laughed at by the gangsters because of today's incident. So I need some reason. Guanghui replied calmly, just say you met the Zhang family's guard. So Wigan widened his eyes, the Zhang family's guard? He then quickly continued to run away. Guanghui returned to the house after a while to retrieve his weapon. The young man saw Guanghui come back and was terrified. Zhang family's bodyguard is a great martial arts expert. Guanghui glanced at Wang Ju-il and said, old man, I think you should evacuate everyone to another place. Wang Ju-il nodded. Ah, I got it. Guanghui went and picked up his coat. I have a request. Can I have a horse? Wang Ju-il replied, of course you can. Guanghui turned around and went out, thank you. Wang Ju-il chased him out and asked, Guanghui is you, right? The commander of the Martial Arts League back then, you were a member of Qianying Dan, right? Guanghui did not answer but quickly spurred his horse to leave. Wang Ju-il stood there blankly, looking at his back and thought. Is something wrong? There was no way he would laugh in front of that terrible situation. Guanghui rode his horse deep into the forest. I don't know how long it took him to stop, sitting helplessly on the horse's back. He looked at his sticky hand. Full of blood, I burst out laughing. Haha, so good, I feel so much better. I can't believe I feel happy again after killing someone, this is so ironic. Wrong where? The man I admired when I was young, he suddenly appeared, defeated the enemy and then disappeared. I always wanted to become such a great warrior. To be like that, I picked up a stick and started practicing swordplay. Everything started from there, or when I became famous and became one of the 7 wanderers, or when my landlord took me to Cheonyung Dan, or when I joined the assassin squad. Damn, I just wanted to play the role of a hero. At first it was like that. When I saw that warrior defeat the enemy I was fascinated. I thought when everyone praised me then how wonderful would it be. For things to turn out like this, I have become a murder weapon. What have I done? Why did I turn my life into this? He fell down from the horse helplessly and lay on the ground, so tired. Is this the life I once dreamed of? What is the meaning of this life? Every time he remembers what Pig Wook-il said back then, how did your leader overcome it? He sat up and walked towards a cliff. Pig Wook-il, where is the answer to that question, so tell me. How can I get over it? Scene changes to Jiang family. Shijia Zhuang's army is now setting up tents outside to keep watch. Sok Damyung sits inside leisurely drinking, not knowing that his house has been attacked. A martial artist came over and asked, "Master, have you heard the report about the Jiang family?" Sok Damyung nodded, "Of course I heard." The other person's face was full of confusion. "So why are you sitting here? Don't you want to go check it out?" Sok Damyung laughed. "You really don't know anything about the Jiang family. Wouldn't it be nice if they were scared and ran away?" The other person is still full of doubts. "What do you mean?" Sok Damyung explained, "Perhaps a few leaders ran away in fear, causing the rest to run away in confusion. So of course victory belongs to us." The other person asked again, "But isn't that true? Could there be another situation? What if they proactively retreat and then come back to attack us?" Sok Damyung smiled confidently, "No way. What the hell can the head of the Jiang family do but tremble in fear? Look at the mess in front of him. There are traces of eating and drinking early in the morning. Beggars also wander around here. Do you know what that means? Means he hastily ran away as soon as he heard the news of our arrival. So let's just rest, have a cup of tea and a piece of cake and then check whatever he wants." The scene changes back to the cover forest near Shim Ju-hyun's inn. Bai Danju was currently riding a horse leading an army to rush here. "Hurry up, we're almost there." Suddenly the guard next to her waved his hand and called everyone. Everyone stopped. "Wait, someone is coming." Very soon a figure quickly rushed in front of them. Bai Danju saw the other person and his eyebrows furrowed. The person was coming, it was So Wigan. He rushed forward and shouted angrily, "Bai Danju, you bastard!" Then pulled out his knife and jumped up towards the opponent and slashed at. The guard next to Bai Danju saw so without thinking too much. He immediately pulled out his knife, jumped off the horse's back, and rushed forward to block. The long swords on both sides immediately collided with each other. But So Wigan then used extremely fast speed to dodge past. One side ignored the other guard. Then quickly rushed in front of Bai Danju and slashed out a knife. The veil on Bai Danju's face was immediately slashed away. The other guard was about to continue charging, but was stopped by Danju. "Stop so I can talk to him." She lowered her head and pulled the scarf to cover her face again. The reason she always covers her face is because on her muzzle she had a huge scar that looked like it was probably caused by a knife or sword. So Wigan didn't continue to attack but stood still in the same place staring at her and screaming, "Why did you lie to me? You said it was a moke?" Bai Danju's eyebrows furrowed. "What do you mean?" So Wigan raised his sword again. "If you say any more meaningless words I will break your neck." Bai Danju asked suspiciously, "What kind of person are you when you meet?" When So Wigan saw that expression of hers, his eyes immediately widened. After a moment, he calmly put down his knife. "Judging by your attitude, it seems like you didn't mean it. I'll spare your life once. This and that. But the money must be paid, even the reward must be paid, otherwise I will not only kill you but also kill your subordinates." Bai Danju does not care about the money and continues to ask, "That person even you can't deal with? I wonder if your martial arts skills are not enough to deal with him?" So Wigan laughed coldly. "What does that have to do with anything? I've done my best." Bai Danju was startled. "What?" So Wigan didn't want to explain too much and raised his hand again. "Don't bother giving me the money." Bai Danju nodded. "I'll give it to you." After receiving the money, So Wigan breathed out, "Well done. I like to work neatly like this. Let me give you a sincere advice. It's best not to come to the house to choose. Bai Danju is extremely difficult to understand." "What do you mean, what?" So Wigan, "Raise your sword. If you still want to live then give up. Not just this time, but leave here too." Bai Danju widened his eyes. "Why?" So Wigan replied calmly, because even I don't want to face that monster again. Bai Danju stood there looking at So Wigun's back. After a while when he regained consciousness, he ordered his subordinates to all return to Shijiazhuang. The guard behind him was frightened when he heard that, but seeing Bai Danju's resolute attitude, he did not dare to have any opinion and obeyed the order. Everyone quickly returned to Shijiazhuang. The group then quickly spurred their horses and turned back to Shijiazhuang. Danju walked while thinking, a mysterious expert, he finally showed up, but even the devil's ghost compared to Wigan. One of the Blood Soul 3 people met him but had to turn tail and run away, so what kind of monster was he? The scene changes back to Shijiazhuang. Sung Ryong tells Shijiazhuang Ju that this is the end for him. Shijiazhuang Ju is not afraid, on the contrary, he smiles. Moke personally coming here is truly an honor for him. Me. Sung Ryong coldly laughed, don't blame yourself because he did everything he could. Shijiazhuang Ju sighed and sat down. I don't know who to blame, I can only blame myself. Himself did not decisively attack the enemy first. Sung Ryong's face was full of doubt. Is that all he wanted to say? Shijiazhuang Ju asked back, do I have an interesting story you want to hear? Did you help the Zhang family without finding out anything? Do you know the purpose of Zhang family? Sung Ryong was confused, what did he mean? Shijiazhuang Ju explained, we want to be able to resolve everything peacefully so the Zhang family can survive until now. If we Shijiazhuang really wanted to mobilize, they would have collapsed long ago. It's been a long time, don't think things are going smoothly because there will come a time when you realize how proud the Zhang family is of making you help them fight against us. No, I don't think you can live to see that day. Outside the hallway, Il Quan was running in from the outside at extremely fast speed. Everyone run quickly. Nung Ya Jin's group heard that and was suddenly stunned. Even though they didn't understand anything, they still chose to trust him. Get out of here quickly, move quickly and leave here. In Sung Ryong's room, after listening to Shijiazhuang Ju's words for a while, they got angry. Raise your sword, have you said enough? Shijiazhuang Ju laughed loudly, haha, enough, it seems you still haven't realized it. Anyway, in the other world, it is I who will welcome you, not the Zhang family. After speaking he immediately pulling hard on the arm of the chair next to him. Sung Ryong felt the floor vibrating and was scared. What are you trying to do? Shijiazhuang Ju's eyes were extremely fierce and he laughed loudly. Sung Ryong was about to rush to take his life when Il Quan ran from outside. He immediately grabbed Sung Ryong's shirt and threw it away outside. Get out of here quickly. Sung Ryong's face was full of confusion. Master, what is that? Shijiazhuang Ju sat on a chair. There was already a fire burning around him. He stared at the two people and smiled coldly. It was late. Il Quan raised his eyebrows extremely tensely. Sung Ryong was in the back at this time, he also realized the problem. He was frightened when he saw Il Quan risking his life to save him. Master quickly released a powerful explosion. And the scene changed to the inn. The innocent people killed by Yeob were all brought out at this time. Their relatives had also returned to claim their loved ones' bodies. Plaintive cries rang out everywhere, everyone was covered by an extremely gloomy atmosphere. Zhang Ryan was also chased by the militia. Her face filled with sadness slowly entered. The two people Wang Ju-il and Sok Dong left came out to greet her. When she saw them, she got excited and went over to ask, Elder Wang, is this true? Wang Ju-il nodded, that's right, Guangwei killed all of them alone. That young man slowly walked over under the protection of the soldiers. He grasped the situation better than anyone another. A brave and decisive person, that is someone who can do anything on his own. I have never met anyone so talented. If he did not come in time, I am sure that everyone in this boarding house, including me, were all killed. After hearing this, Zhang Ryan collapsed helplessly to the ground. Zhang Wang stood up from her bed, I told you to trust me. Zhang Ryan sighed inwardly, I didn't expect him to be this good. After a while, she asked Wang Ju-il, so where is he now? Wang Ju-il sighed, is that so? He got on the horse and left. The two brothers and sisters heard that. Their faces were full of confusion. What do you mean? Wang Ju-il explains, actually I promised him before he came to our family, that when everything is over he can leave here at will. Jang Wang in his heart silently pondering, "Are you leaving? Why so suddenly?" He remembered what Il Quan said before, but even if he was still alive after that time, he would still choose death. The more outstanding his martial arts skills, the more guilty he felt. Burdened, he had to endure endless torment every time the mission failed, and in the end he would commit suicide by stabbing a knife into his chest. Thinking of this, he agitatedly clutched his shoulder. Jang Ryan shouted, "Jang Ryan, we need to find him immediately." Jang Ryan saw Jang Wang so excited and was stunned for a moment. The scene changed to another side. Guanghui was now trembling and pulled out the demonic sword. The demonic sword and Gumado were both taken down and placed on the ground. He stared at the demonic sword covered in blood on the ground. After a moment, he decisively reached out and grabbed the blade of the sword. He pointed the tip of the sword straight at his chest. On the other side, the two brothers Jang Ryan were currently riding hard on horseback to look for Guanghui. Jang Wang kept praying in her heart, "Please don't do that, guard Guanghui, please go." Jang Ryan was also silently praying in her heart, "The guard, please." The two of them ran for a while, then in front of him appeared a horse. "Look over there, that's the horse he was riding." Jang Ryan couldn't wait for the horse and immediately jumped down from the horse. She ignored everything even though her shoes were on. Fell out. Even though she was barefoot, she still quickly ran up. No, the guard couldn't. Guanghui trembled, tightly holding the blade. "Sorry I was late, please understand me. I tried my best to fight to live, but it was really too difficult." At that moment, the voice of Pig Wook Il was heard from his hand. "Leader, please live long." Guanghui sighed. "Why are you smiling so stupidly?" He was determined to die, so no matter what, he still pointed the sword towards his chest. When he wanted to attack, suddenly there was a hand holding his hand to stop him. "Stop." Guanghui slowly opened his eyes. The one stopping him was Jang Ryan. She cried and stared at him, "The bodyguard, stop, you don't need to do this." Guanghui looked, seeing that it was her eyes widened. "Jang Ryan, miss." Jang Ryan continued to scream loudly, "Were the words you said that day a reference to this? Please don't resent me too much if you suddenly disappear. Don't die, Guardian, you can't die. Why do you have to do this?" Guanghui sighed, "Because I deserved to die, because of me so many people died, including innocent people, and also my comrades. Those people could have lived happy without me, but in the end they died because of me. I'm just a dirty weapon, a sharp but useless weapon, so I'd better die, you understand?" Jang Ryan stared at him. "What about the people who lived through him? What about those who might have died without you? What about the people who are able to keep their lives thanks to you? Then what about the people you can save later? Are those people meaningless to you?" Guanghui immediately stared at her. Jang Ryan was also staring at him, waiting for an answer. After a while, seeing that he had calmed down, she slowly removed his hand from the blade. Guanghui finally let go of the demonic sword. Jang Ryan excitedly hugged him. "Guard, you must live more tenaciously, use your martial arts to save many lives like saved our Jang family. I don't know, but that can become your life goal. If you find this life meaningless, then create your own meaning for it. Otherwise, if you can save this person, you can still save others. There are no useless weapons, there are only people who consider themselves useless." Guanghui still has a depressed look on his face. "I'm so sorry, miss." Jang Ryan cried loudly, "Bodyguard, please go." Guanghui shook his head. "That's not what I meant. I also want to live, but now my body no longer obeys." He raised his hand, "You see. But when he looked at my hand, I was surprised. What's wrong with my hand? My body stopped shaking. He held my hand tightly, raising his head to look at the sky. The dawn had appeared after the gloomy night. In his mind once again the words of his old comrades appeared, "Leader, please live long, you must promise." The scene changes to Shijia Zhuang. After pushing Sung Ryong away, Il Quan immediately performed 100 steps of divine power. Turning around, he immediately had a very strong aura spread out. Sung Ryong was also able to do that, pushed outside. Even so, he was still affected by the explosion. He was blown out by the explosion and lay on the ground. Nung Ya Jin's group had already run out quickly. Went to ask, "Are you okay?" Sung Ryong sat up and asked again, "What happened?" Nung Ya Jin explained, "There was a big explosion. When we arrived we saw you already lying here." Sung Ryong was startled when he heard that. Master. How is the master? Nung Ya Jin bowed his head and did not answer. Sung Ryong was scared. Could it be he? Nung Ya Jin sighed. The master was still alive, but very quickly Il Quan was gone, was carried forward. His body had been blown to pieces by a bomb. Sung Ryong panicked and rushed forward shouting, "Master, are you still breathing? Why did you save me?" Il Quan tried to say the two words to cut blood. Sung Ryong secretly thought in his heart, cutting the blood, this method will exhaust the strength but also temporarily cut off the pain, so the master can talk. However, this method contains many risks, but looking at his current condition, it seems like it's better to try to listen to what he wants to say. Thinking for a moment, he quickly pressed acupuncture points on Il Quan's body, cutting off the pulse and qi. After pressing the acupuncture point, he asked, "Can the master speak yet?" "Il Quan can talk now. It's better, I don't have much time, so you listen to what I say." The donor himself also witnessed the type of bomb exploding, which is different from other types of bombs. Normally, as soon as this war is over, you should investigate how Shi Jiazhuang came to possess this bomb. Only then will you know the real reason they targeted the Zhang family. So much maybe a bigger disaster will befall Zhang family. I have a request. Please help young master Zhang Wang on my behalf. Sung Ryong is doubtful. Why? But after saying these words, Il Quan was completely silent and stopped breathing. Sung Ryong was stunned on the spot and unconsciously called out, "Master, master." He quickly took off his cloak. "Come on, master. I will take you to a safe place. You must live." Nung Ya Jin's group stood aside and looked sadly. Sung Ryong rolled his shirt over Il Quan's body and helped him up. "Wake up, I'll do it." Wang Jin Su couldn't help but exclaim when he saw this situation, "He's dead." Nung Ya Jin raised his hand to stop him. "Just pretend you don't know." The crowd then bowed their heads and sighed slowly as they stood there. Sung Ryong carried Il Quan on his back and headed outside. A tragic evening. Shi Jiazhuang was attacked by the Zhang family, resulting in about 40 warriors, including Shi Jiazhuang Ju. The head of the Shi Jiazhuang family also died. On the Zhang family's side, the biggest loss was the death of Master Il Quan. Immediately after that, the Lord government ordered hundreds of soldiers searched day and night in the territory of Shi Jiazhuang. The attention of the imperial officials were focused on investigating explosives, however they did not get the exact answer. The entire army attacked Zhang family of Shi Jiazhuang ran away instead of returning to Shi Jiazhuang, however most were killed by Zhang family's army. Sok Damyung was lucky to survive, clinging tightly to Bai Danju and not letting go. Bai Danju master saved me with. One day after Shi Jiazhuang burned down, all the Zhang family members returned. Despite Guanghui's intervention, there were still more than a dozen people present in the inn who were killed, and consoled family of the deceased is the most urgent task to do at this time. All the warriors except Master Il Quan returned safely. Although victorious, Zhang Ryan from beginning to end the melancholy expression was still clearly visible on his face. Guanghui left without saying where he was going. Zhang Wang went to ask, "Zhang Ryan still hasn't heard from Guanghui?" Zhang Ryan shook her head, "Not yet." Zhang Wang sighed, "Oh my god. It's been 3 days since that day. I wanted to ask many things but he didn't seem to want to talk, so I just asked him must live and not ask anymore." A few days later, on a beautiful evening, Zhang Ryan stood outside the yard looking at the sky and sighed. After all, he still didn't come back. She picked up the bamboo hat that she gave to Guanghui and contemplated. Her mind quickly flashed the situation at that time. At that time, she didn't think much but cried loudly and threw herself into Guanghui's chest. Remembering the situation at that time couldn't help but make her blush in embarrassment. "Oh, I was so crazy at that time. I hope everything will be okay." "Yes, it will be okay." At that time he said, "Stop something, is it good or bad?" While she was lost, Guanghui suddenly appeared in front of her. Zhang Ryan saw him and couldn't believe it, frozen on the spot. Guanghui had once again returned to his appearance. A bodyguard appeared in front of her. He looked at her and smiled, "Long time no see." Zhang Ryan stood there smiling and looking at him without saying a word. The scene changed to another side. Il's bodyquan was finally cremated by Sung Ryong. Returned to the two Guanghuis, looked at each other in silence for a moment, then spoke up. Heard that most of the key people of Shijiazhuang had not was arrested. I promised to help Zhang family eliminate the danger, so I will stay here until then." Zhang Ryan bowed her head without responding but looked very angry. Guanghui didn't care. He continued to talk, "And I didn't have anywhere to go, so—" Before he could finish his sentence, Zhang Ryan swung his fist and punched him. Guanghui's face was full of confusion. "Miss, how are you?" Seeing that she still kept swinging his hand, he reached out and grabbed her hand. "That's enough, stop it." Tears were flowing from the corner of Zhang Ryan's eyes. "Why didn't you tell me? Will you leave? You just need to say one word, just one word is fine. I really don't know what happened to you." Guanghui looked at her and remembered the situation that night. After talking to her for a while, he stood up and left, leaving her there. Zhang Ryan then suddenly sat down on the ground and cried loudly. Guanghui, seeing her like this, was momentarily stunned and didn't know what to do. "Miss Zhang Ryan, please stop," he said. Just then, another voice sounded from behind. "Are you the kind of man who makes a delicate lady cry in the middle of the night? I'm really disappointed." Guanghui turned his head and saw that the speaker was Moke. Sung Ryong smiled at the two of them. "Hello, miss, I'm Moke." Zhang Ryan, startled by Moke's sudden appearance, stood up, wiped her tears in embarrassment, and greeted him. "You are here too?" "Master." Sung Ryong sighed and nodded. Both Zhang Ryan and Guanghui fell silent after that. After a while, Sung Ryong glanced at Guanghui and asked, "But why did this esteemed guard, Guanghui, make our beautiful lady Zhang Ryan cry?" Guanghui glanced at him but didn't respond. Zhang Ryan shook her head and explained, "It's nothing." Sung Ryong still didn't believe it and continued to question, "How can it be nothing? A guard made his master cry, and you say it's nothing?" Sung Ryong glared at Guanghui angrily while Zhang Ryan stared intensely at him. Only Guanghui remained indifferent, standing there as if it had nothing to do with him. After a moment, Zhang Ryan turned and ran off. "I will inform the others of your return. Can you both stay here?" Sung Ryong nodded, "If that's what my lady wants." Zhang Ryan then quickly ran away. Guanghui and Sung Ryong stood there silently, watching her back. Once Zhang Ryan was completely out of sight, Sung Ryong turned to Guanghui and asked, "How did you manage that? I heard a lot happened while I wasn't there." Guanghui paid no attention to him, just standing there in a daze. Sung Ryong sighed helplessly, "With your martial arts skills, dealing with those demonic cultists must be no problem, right? By the way, when can we have another match?" "Haha, I'm free now. Besides, the people from Shijiazhuang are almost dealt with." Guanghui glanced at him, then quickly turned around and left. Sung Ryong lowered his head and sighed, "I know, I'm too bothersome. But can you answer this question for me? Yu Jio Jin." Guanghui stopped immediately when he heard himself being called by that name. Sung Ryong smiled, "That's not your real name, is it?" Bodyguard Guanghui. The scene shifts to another place where Zhang Wang and Wang Juil are at a village. Zhang Wang instructed Nung Ya Jin's group, "I think you should stay outside." Nung Ya Jin advised, "If there's any trouble, young master, shout or signal from the window over there." Ang Wang turned and nodded, "All right." The two then quickly entered the inn, and the master said to sit at the table in the corner. Soon, a waitress came out and asked, "What would you like to order?" Zhang Wang raised one finger, "An apple and a steamed bun." Wang Juil puzzledly exclaimed, "A combination that very few people order. This meal indeed draws attention." Zhang Wang pondered, "This method of using a code phrase is often employed by organizations requiring high confidentiality. Anyone can hear it, but only those who know the code will understand." Quickly, several dishes were brought to the table. Zhang Wang and Wang Juil immediately felt nauseated after taking a bite. The taste was disgusting. They placed two chopsticks parallel to each other, widened the ends, and turned the cup upside down. Once Wang Juil finished, Zhang Wang instructed him to stand up. As soon as they stood up, the waitress approached again. "Did you miss a step?" Zhang Wang calmly replied, "Too many things, really chaotic." The waitress asked again, "You said too much, will you visit again next time?" Zhang Wang sternly said, "I definitely will." After a while, Zhang Wang and Wang Juil once again left the inn, and Nung Ya Jin's group immediately came up to ask, "Is everything all right?" Zhang Wang nodded, "I think so." He pondered, did I make any mistakes? After all, I did exactly as instructed. At this moment, someone in the distance was slowly approaching. The person completely ignored Nung Ya Jin's group, heading straight for Jiang Wang. To Jiang Wang's astonishment, the three members of Nung Ya Jin's group were instantly knocked out by the opponent without a chance to react. Wang Ju-il, who tried to speak up, was also knocked unconscious. The person walked up to Jiang Wang and harshly asked, "Who are you? How do you know the code of Qianying Dan?" The scene shifts back to the Jiang family. After observing Guangwei for a while, Sung Ryong began to ponder. Yu Jio Jin, he reacted to that name. Guangwei frowned at him. He then decisively turned and continued to leave. Sung Ryong frowned, standing still, watching his back as he left, lost in thought. The scene shifts back to Jiang Wang's group. He once again entered the inn, sitting across from the other person. Nung Ya Jin's group was carried in by another person and thrown on the ground. Jiang Wang dared not make any reckless moves, he just quietly sat there observing the other person, too. After a moment, when he finished reading the letter Jiang Wang brought, the masked man exclaimed, "Master Il Quan is." Jiang Wang nodded, "That's right, 4. The other person still couldn't believe it. "It's unbelievable. Master Il Quan's martial arts were extremely high. Not many could harm him. Even the Ha Buk Peng family couldn't do it." Jiang Wang shook his head. He wasn't attacked, he died in an explosion. The moment Jiang Wang explained what happened to Master Il Quan, the eyes of the two people sank. After hearing Jiang Wang's story, the masked man widened his eyes. "You say the bomb was strong enough to blow up a house? Are you sure?" Jiang Wang nodded. "It's true. Because of that, we've collected all the evidence and suspicious records from Shijiazhuang." The young man then took off his hat. "All right, this won't be easy, but first, this is indeed Il Quan's handwriting. From now on, you can follow this method, but you must come alone because I will only trust you." Jiang Wang nodded, "Understood." The other person then stood up, turning to leave. "The letters will appear when you wet them." Jiang Wang sat silently as they left. After a few steps, the young man suddenly turned back to glance at Jiang Wang. "Do you have anything else to say?" Jiang Wang stood up. "Yes, I have a question. Are you a member of Qianying Dan?" The other person fell into contemplation upon hearing that. Jiang Wang continued, "You asked me how I knew Qianying Dan's secret code, so you must know their communication methods. Have you interacted with them or are you one of them?" The man beside the young man angrily turned back and snapped, "Hey kid, don't speak nonsense or you'll get a beating." The young man stopped him and glanced at Jiang Wang. "Why are you curious about that?" Jiang Wang explained, "Master Il Quan told me that Qianying Dan consists of two main teams, the target team and the assassin team, so, I wonder if you are part of the assassin team." The young man frowned. "Why do you want to know about that?" Jiang Wang began to break out in a cold sweat. "If you are from that team, can I ask you about someone I know?" The young man asked back, "Who is he?" Jiang Wang had a stern look on his face. "I want to hear the answer to my question first." The big guy got angry seeing him talk back like that. "This kid." The young man stopped him. "Master Il Quan must have trusted you a lot. You're right. I used to be a member of Qianying Dan." Jiang Wang was shocked, "But I heard that all of them were dead." The young man shook his head. "Those were just rumors. The truth is quite a few members are still alive. Especially our reconnaissance team." Jiang Wang was amazed. "There's a reconnaissance team?" The young man nodded. "Very few people know about this. Let me explain in more detail. Besides the target team and the assassin team, there is another team in Qianying Dan. Although the assassin team is the most notable and always the vanguard in eliminating enemies. But the reconnaissance team also plays a very important role in gathering information about the enemy to assist the other two teams. Code signals are one of the methods of communication." "All right, now tell me, who is the person you want to ask about?" Jiang Wang quickly explained, "That person is rumored to be the last survivor of the assassin team. Yu Jio Jin, do you know him?" The young man was shocked when he heard this name. His eyes looked like they were about to pop out. Switching to another scene, Sung Ryong was sitting in a room, recalling the events of the previous day. Before Il Quan died, I happened to overhear a conversation between him and the young master. I heard the name Yu Jio Jin. At first, I thought it was just a normal conversation. However, seeing the young master especially curious about him, I also started to feel curious. Earlier when I met Guanghui, I suddenly thought of that name and decided to test it. Indeed, he had some reaction. There is definitely something. Think again. Wuja, Yeob, and So Wigan. All of them are top-class experts from the evil faction. Yet Guanghui managed to handle them all by himself. The other two were not too formidable. But So Wigan is a renowned master acknowledged by both the evil and righteous factions. The more he thought, the more he couldn't make sense of it. After a while, he suddenly stood up and sighed. I wonder when my lady will be free. Speak of the devil and he shall appear. Not far away, Zhang Ryan was walking alone in the courtyard, seemingly heading somewhere. Sung Ryong, without hesitation, waved his hand and called out loudly, Lady Zhang Ryan. I see you're very diligent, my lady. You've finished all your work, haven't you? Zhang Ryan laughed. I still have a lot to do. Hearing this, Sung Ryong's expression immediately turned less cheerful. After a moment, he asked, So where are you going, my lady? Zhang Ryan casually replied, I'm looking for you, Sir Moke. Sung Ryong, surprised, pointed at himself. Me? You're looking for me? Zhang Ryan nodded. Didn't you say before that you wanted to take a walk with me along the big trees? Hearing this, Sung Ryong couldn't hide his joy. But very quickly, that joy turned into disappointment. Because not only were the two of them going for a walk, but Zhang Ryan also brought Guanghui along. After a while, Sung Ryong couldn't help but lean in and whisper in Zhang Ryan's ear, What's he doing here? Zhang Ryan laughed. He's just accompanying us for protection, that's all. Guanghui nonchalantly said, I'm just doing my job, so don't mind me, pretend I don't exist. Sung Ryong's face showed clear disappointment. So you're still going to be here, right? But Lady Zhang Ryan, isn't this breaking a promise? I mean, why don't we just take a walk alone and let him go wherever he wants? I requested that it be just you and me before. Zhang Ryan calmly replied, Aren't we doing that right now? Sung Ryong, frustrated, turned and pointed at Guanghui, but I don't want him tagging along like this. Guanghui didn't care and responded, Have you forgotten? A guard is like clothes and limbs, just go for your walk and pretend I don't exist. If you feel I'm too close, I'll keep a further distance. Seeing Guanghui step back and increase the distance, Sung Ryong finally sighed with a bit of relief. Good. That's better. Zhang Ryan walked and asked, Sir Moke, isn't there something very strange about Guanghui the Guardian? You've heard the story of him single-handedly defeating all the evil sect members at the inn, right? It's truly amazing, isn't it? Sung Ryong nodded in agreement. Yes, it really is amazing. Zhang Ryan continued, but even after doing such an incredible thing, his attitude hasn't changed at all. He even tries to avoid everyone to escape being questioned. But he can't be as skilled as you, after all. You're one of the 7 wanderers. Sung Ryong nodded proudly. That's right, that's right. Zhang Ryan asked again, however, I still think Guanghui the Guardian is truly amazing. How strong do you think he is? Sung Ryong furrowed his eyebrows. I'm very curious about that too. He turned his head to glance at Guanghui behind him and thought, Just wait, my subordinates are investigating. Zhang Ryan also turned his head and waved at Guanghui, Guardian, come here quickly. Guanghui saw her suddenly call him over, his face full of doubt. When Guanghui arrived, Zhang Ryan looked at the two of them and said, I want to ask a favor from both of you. As soon as she finished speaking, she swung her hand and removed her cloak. As the cloak was removed, it revealed a martial arts uniform underneath. She then looked at the two of them seriously and said loudly, Please teach me martial arts. Sung Ryong nodded excitedly, sounds good. Guanghui, on the other hand, indifferently said, Number. Zhang Ryan asked in confusion, Why? Guanghui explained, It's better not to know anything than to half-heartedly mimic. It's too late for you to start learning martial arts now. Zhang Ryan loudly retorted, I can work hard to get better. Guanghui nodded. That's possible. But the likelihood of not getting anywhere is much higher. Zhang Ryan screamed, Why don't you see how I am first before deciding? Guanghui calmly replied, I've already seen. Zhang Ryan pressed on, When the lady drew her sword at Song Sukbu, the chief of the guards. Zhang Ryan still wouldn't give up, saying, Isn't it too hasty to make a judgment based on just one time? Guanghui calmly replied, One time is enough. Zhang Ryan trembled with anger. How can you be so cold? I'm just stating the truth. Jang Ryan sulked, thinking, I just wanted to take this opportunity to find a way to repay them. Sung Ryong also sulked, glancing at Guanghui. After a while, Jang Ryan angrily scolded, You're so mean, and Sung Ryong agreed, She's right, you're too cold. Miss Jang Ryan, don't worry, I'm here, I'll teach you. Now, let me see your martial arts, Guanghui said, and Jang Ryan turned away, all right. The two of them then left together again. After walking a few steps, she suddenly stopped, turned to Guanghui and confidently said, Just wait, I will become stronger. Guanghui nodded, I hope so too. Jang Ryan shouted angrily, I'm serious, extremely serious, but Guanghui remained indifferent, I know. Jang Ryan helplessly sulked and then turned away, Let's go, Master Moke. After a while, they arrived at an empty field, and Sung Ryong was overjoyed. All right, this is what I want, just the two of us, hee. Jang Ryan quickly drew her longsword. Sung Ryong approached and asked, Miss, how long have you been learning the sword? Jang Ryan replied immediately, About 2 years, I started when I was 17. Sung Ryong continued, How many moves can you perform in one breath? Jang Ryan raised her sword, at least 2 moves. Sung Ryong was a bit surprised, 2 moves in one breath? Jang Ryan proudly smiled, hee, and I haven't had much time to practice. Sung Ryong's mouth dropped open. What martial art have you been learning? The flowering 7-star sword. Sung Ryong exclaimed, That's the swordsmanship of a small sect. Can you perform the moves you are most confident in? Jang Ryan frowned and thought. Then she put on a serious face and gripped her longsword tightly. She then began to swing her sword, spinning around. Even after Jang Ryan finished her movements, Sung Ryong was still in shock. She looked at him with interest and asked, How was it? Sung Ryong didn't answer but asked back, Who taught you to link the moves like that? Jang Ryan was taken aback. My father taught me, does it look strange? Sung Ryong hesitated, after a while he asked her to do it again, and Jang Ryan nodded with determination. All right. This time I'll do it perfectly. She then started swinging her sword wildly again. Sung Ryong's face was filled with helplessness, thinking, Damn, what the hell is this? She hasn't even mastered the basics. While Jang Ryan was crazily swinging her sword, she saw Guanghui appear under a distant tree. She was so startled by his appearance that she tripped and fell to the ground. Sung Ryong quickly ran to help her up. Are you all right, miss? Jang Ryan shook her head, I'm fine. Seeing her staring into the forest, Sung Ryong curiously looked over. When he saw it was Guanghui, his eyes narrowed. It's really horrible, you said she's stronger in your team, but why do you keep haunting her? Guanghui ignored him and stared at Jang Ryan. I think it's best if you give up learning martial arts. After speaking, he turned and left, ignoring the two of them. Jang Ryan stood up and angrily shouted, I just slipped a little. If I had done things right, everything would have been different. Guanghui, completely indifferent, continued to walk away. Seeing his attitude, Jang Ryan helplessly collapsed to the ground. Sung Ryong sat down to comfort her. Miss, you can do it. Jang Ryan, feeling down, asked, Mr. Moke, can I learn martial arts? Am I so incompetent that I can't learn anything from you? Sung Ryong smiled without answering. Jang Ryan, seeing his expression, showed even more disappointment on her face. Soon after, the sky suddenly poured down a heavy rain. In a certain mansion, a middle-aged man was sitting at a table, polishing his sword. Sok Damyoung and Bai Danju quickly entered from outside. The middle-aged man knew they had entered but remained silent, continuing to polish his sword without paying attention. Seeing his attitude, Sok Damyoung and his group could not help but break out in cold sweat. After a moment, he finally turned his head and scolded them, You trash. They were shocked and widened their eyes in surprise at his sudden words. The middle-aged man explained, I did not mean to offend or mock you, I just said what I thought. You really are a bunch of trash. Sok Damyoung hurriedly explained, We did our best in this battle. Even the matter of my father lighting the fuse was to prevent the enemy from discovering the truth. My father sacrificed his life to keep it a secret, otherwise, that banned substance would have caused a major problem. The middle-aged man exclaimed in surprise, Oh, I'm sorry for offending you. But why are you being so vague? What is this banned substance? Are you talking about Pak Gung? Sok Damyung bowed his head. Yes, that's right, the man asked. Then why don't you just say it directly? Why the long-winded explanation? And why did the head of Shijiazhuang have to do that? Why use Pak Gung, something that was originally given to Shijiazhuang to deal with stronger enemies? Bai Danju explained, that was his mistaken belief that the Zhang family wouldn't dare to attack. The middle-aged man snorted upon hearing this. Sok Damyung once again raised his voice in explanation. We will do our best to assist you and provide you with everything we can. The middle-aged man nodded. I understand now. So I will ask you again, do you currently own Shijiazhuang? Is it correct? Do you now hold the entire Shijiazhuang business in your hands? Sok Damyung quickly nodded. Yes, indeed, there should be a few useful things. The middle-aged man walked up to him, smiling. What is that useful thing? What do you think is useful? As he spoke, he placed his hand on Sok Damyung's shoulder. Tomorrow, I want to verify Shijiazhuang's sincerity. I need to see something with my own eyes, not just hear it from words. I wonder if the heir of Shijiazhuang can meet this requirement. Is this very difficult for you? Sok Damyung trembled and bowed his head. Yes, no, I will do everything I can to prove it. The middle-aged man smiled. We don't have much time. If you want to prove it tomorrow, it's still not too late to act now. Hearing this, Sok Damyung hurriedly turned and ran out. Yes, I will go right now. After Sok Damyung left, the middle-aged man turned to glance at Bai Danju. Bai Danju, seeing his gaze, couldn't help but turn away in fear. The middle-aged man did not look at her for long and quickly turned back to the table. Tomorrow we will start over. Those involved with Shijiazhuang, including that rat, are naturally included. You'd better do better if you want to continue cooperating with us. Bai Danju's eyes widened in fear. Hearing the old man's final words, she suddenly realized that even if Shijiazhuang succeeded, the outcome would still be the same, nothing would change. Pak Gung was just an excuse, a tool to conceal the real plan. The scene transitions to a dock somewhere. An old man stands on a boat, looking at the distant waves and sighs. It will be tough to leave today, so Wigan, standing behind him, adds, I'll go alone. The old man turns to look at him, saying, if you have the money, this boat is yours. So Wigan doesn't say much and directly throws him a bag of gold. The old man excitedly grabs the gold and runs off the boat, saying, it's all yours. So Wigan boards the boat, looking at the distant waves and reflecting, that monster has truly haunted me. Whether I am sleeping or eating, the horrific memory of facing him lingers, making my heart feel like it might stop. I haven't slept well for days, and my limbs and back ache terribly. How could he spare me? He then quickly sits down, unties the boat, and prepares to leave. At this moment, a person in black appears in front of him. Are you So Wigan? So Wigan unties the boat and smiles. From the moment I saw that little Bai Danju, I could smell the rot. Indeed, there's someone backing him up. After speaking, he immediately draws his sword to attack first, seizing the initiative. The other person reacts quickly, raising his sword to parry. After exchanging several moves, So Wigan is pushed back by his opponent. His eyes narrow as he glares at his opponent and curses, damn it. The person in black doesn't give him much time to think and swiftly swings his sword towards him. So Wigan dodges to the side, avoiding his opponent's attack. But the opponent's longsword is extremely agile. With just a slight mistake, the sword is aimed at So Wigan's head. So Wigan has no choice but to retreat again to increase the distance. Seeing this, the person in black leaps towards him again. So Wigan has retreated to the bow of the boat and cannot move any further, so he must swing his sword to defend. The clash causes the bow of the boat to shake violently, making it extremely hard to stand. So Wigan, enraged, swings his sword and cuts the mast. Seeing the mast fall, the person in black quickly retreats to avoid it. So Wigan seizes this opportunity to jump up and counterattack. A powerful strike aims at his opponent's back. But the person in black merely sways slightly and easily avoids So Wigan's blow. So Wigan's eyes widen in shock. He realizes that there isn't just one person in black but three more standing on the shore, watching him. I can't fight them all alone, I must escape quickly. After thinking for a moment, he loudly declares, I'm sure you know who I am. Do you want me to give you some advice? If you want to live long, it's best to run away like I did. The person in black on the boat asks with confusion, "What do you mean?" So Wigan coldly replies, "I'm talking about the one you will encounter if you continue with your plan. He is not a person." With that, he seizes the moment when his opponent is stunned and rushes in. This attack is again dodged by his opponent, and after avoiding So Wigun's strike, the person in black swings his sword to counterattack. But at that moment, So Wigun's longsword extends like a snake and pierces through his opponent's chest. The person in black, unable to react in time, is slain by him. The person then weakly falls into the water. So Wigun stands at the bow of the boat and waves to the remaining people. "What's the matter? Let me repeat it once more. He is not someone you can deal with." The remaining three had no intention of chasing after So Wigun, even though he was rowing away in the boat. The corpse of the black-clad man killed by So Wigun soon drifted ashore. The others quickly carried him away, and one of them said to the middle-aged man beside him, "As you said, he is not a grandmaster. But his martial skills will soon reach that level." The middle-aged man smiled, "I think so too, but as soon as the poison takes effect, he won't live much longer." The black-clad man then said, "It seems the person he mentioned is probably the one who ruined our plan this time. We will investigate, right?" The middle-aged man nodded, "I guess so too, we must investigate. I'm also curious to know who the person So Wigun praised so much is." The black-clad man smiled, "But is he stronger than our senior brother?" The middle-aged man shook his head, "Who knows, he might be a young master who has reached the grandmaster level, but it's not that important." Shifting scenes to the Jang family. After practicing swordplay with Sung Ryong, Jang Ryan was not only unhappy but even more dejected. She had no mood left and turned around, waving her hand to the two Guanghui as she left. Guanghui and Sung Ryong stood there watching her figure. Guanghui remained indifferent, while Sung Ryong said loudly, "Miss, starting tomorrow, I will diligently teach you, so rest well today." Jang Ryan nodded sadly without turning around and continued to walk away. Sung Ryong frowned at her appearance. After she left, he turned to Guanghui and scolded, "Do you really need to say that to Miss Jang Ryan? I know you're worried, but I still can't understand. What she just showed is not something everyone can do." Guanghui replied calmly, "What I see is just her trying to imitate others. What I mean is that she has been learning martial arts for 2 years, but all she can do is that." Sung Ryong frowned, "You're too rigid. She is a talented person and an important figure in the Jang family. It's a good thing if she can protect herself." Guanghui shook his head. If she could protect herself, her character would have already shown it. If that were the case, she wouldn't have been in danger so many times during the war with Shi Jiazhuang, so... He was about to continue when Sung Ryong suddenly interrupted, "Are you not confident? If she lacks strength, just teach her enough to be strong. If she lacks determination, teach her determination. Isn't that difficult? If that's the case, I have a request. When Miss Jang Ryan and I are together in the future, please stay out of the way." Guanghui asked in confusion, "What do you mean?" Sung Ryong explained, "What I mean is that I don't want you to interfere when I'm teaching Miss Jang Ryan martial arts. Because I'm confident I can teach her martial arts." The two of them stared at each other like this. After a while, Guanghui silently turned around and left. Sung Ryong was angry and scowled at his attitude. Changing scenes to another location, So Wigun's boat had now capsized and drifted on the river. He crawled up from the water along the cliff, cursing as he climbed, "Damn it, I will never forgive them. A prestigious family using such vile poison, they are truly filthy." He painfully held his wounded leg and, after a moment, resolutely gritted his teeth and cut off his poisoned, injured leg with a knife. After a long time, he finally stopped the bleeding. "You all can't expect to be content, soon all of you will be dead. Because I deliberately revealed his existence to you." Returning to the Jang family, Guanghui was now shown a new room by Wang Ju-il. After the servants finished tidying up, he waved them away. After the two left, Wang Ju-il asked Guanghui, "Do you really have to stay in this villa? There are many better places, so why did you choose this one?" Guanghui, not paying attention, asked back, "I heard you've been reinstated as the general manager of the external office?" Wang Ju-il smiled and nodded, "It's all thanks to you." Guanghui took off his sword and cloak, approached the bed. "No, this was originally your position," Wang Ju-il sincerely said. "Thank you, Rest well, and if you need anything, just tell me." After Wang Juil left, Guangwei began to inspect the room, and indeed, nothing unusual happened. In the past, whenever I arrived at a new place, my mind would fill with details like the layout of the rooms, materials, standing positions, and movement directions. The width and distance, but now there's nothing at all. Has it really stopped? I wonder why. He began to recall the story about Il Quan. Master Il Quan, the first time I met him was when a person named Bang Hai joined the assassin team. At that time, many disciples came to welcome him, and Il Quan was one of them. I remember Bang Hai was frequently mentioned by the seniors for his outstanding achievements in completing numerous missions. It was indeed true. As soon as I saw him, I understood immediately, vitality overflowing throughout his body. Although he was called a top-notch master, he was an unassuming person. However, he ended up dying due to Pak Gung, also known as Ultimate Gosu. But how could this be? Is it the same thing that killed Il Quan this time? No, it can't be, there's no reason for it. At that moment, a voice came from outside. "Sir Guardian, I brought the map you requested." The person who arrived was Sok Dong. He brought the map to Guangwei and asked, "Why do you need the map?" Guangwei opened the map to check and said it might be needed later. Sok Dong bowed his head and glanced outside, thinking for a while before deciding to ask, "But Sir Guardian, are you sure Miss Zhang Ryan doesn't have the aptitude for martial arts? If she doesn't have the aptitude but works hard, is that acceptable?" His question was actually on behalf of Zhang Ryan, who was eavesdropping outside. Guangwei stood up and replied, "Talent isn't important for learning martial arts, nor is the timing of learning. The skill of the master isn't an issue either." Zhang Ryan was a bit startled when he suddenly came out. But she quickly calmed down. "So what is truly important?" Guangwei stared at her. "It's determination. The way to overcome fear, endure hardship, spirit of sacrifice, ability to withstand sorrow. Out of these, which ones can Miss Zhang Ryan achieve?" Zhang Ryan thought for a while before responding. "I can endure sorrow. When my two older brothers died, they were very important to me. Even though I cried a lot, I still endured and could still smile." After a while, she suddenly bowed her head in sadness. Then she turned and left. "I'm going now. Sok Dong, let's go." Guangwei watched her back and instructed, "Miss, prepare yourself for tomorrow. Even if you complain about being tired, I won't care." Zhang Ryan, upon hearing this, turned around excitedly and asked, "So you agree, right?" "I will definitely do my best when I see you tomorrow." Guangwei smiled and nodded. Zhang Ryan then happily skipped back with Sok Dong. Guangwei looked at her retreating figure and sighed. "I used to always be proud of my ability to endure sorrow.